Ah, hello there, fellow podcast listeners, and welcome once more to my luxurious study in my great big fuck-off mansion. Good 10 seconds in and we're already cursing like a sailor. Marvellous, wouldn't want it any other way. Now, the last time you were invited here, in my study, we were celebrating 500 YouTube subscribers, which... that was about 4 months ago, which really isn't that long. Since then, we have gained a few more subscribers, and by a few more, I mean 1,000 more. In fact, at this moment of recording, we are actually closer to 1,600, and just to think that, let alone say it, is just bizarre and totally surreal, and I just couldn't possibly imagine a future where the Law by Night podcast would gain so much traction and support and love so quickly. So, from the bottom of my cold, dead, unbeating, dank heart, I will forever be grateful for your support, love, and affection, all of which are totally alien concepts to me. Now, I have bought the neonate as before to operate some clever, dated 2004 machinery to answer your questions, but I have somebody else with me tonight, because you see, we were going through the questions on the Instagrams and Twitters and the Law by Night Discord server. I'm still not entirely sure how that works. It turns out that some of you were asking questions for somebody else in my domain, my haven, my home. And of course, you all know who I'm referring to. It is, of course, Colin the Gargoyle. Colin, say hello to the lovely listeners.
Hello, podcast listeners. It's me, Colin the Gargoyle. Hello.
Oh, Colin, never change, you never change. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, we have some questions to ask from the Instagram, Twitter, and Law by Night Discord pages and servers, and we're going to go through them in that order. So, Neonate, if you could ready the machine where they have recorded the questions for me, and let's start right away. So as previously stated, we're going to start with the Instagram page, and the first question comes from a Max de Kerr. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm just going to call you Max. Max the Green Day Avatar. What is your question?
How do you feel about having guests over at the podcast?
Ooh, a very interesting first question indeed. Ooh, I like it a lot. Well, interesting you should say that. We are rapidly approaching the 1-year anniversary of me creating the Law by Night podcast, and, well, I have been hypothesizing some ideas of having some guests over, as a matter of fact, sort of like an interview with a vampire sort of thing. Canite Conversations was the idea that I was going with, and if anybody else pinches that idea, I will call them out for it, for you're stealing my ideas. But yes, I very much like the idea of doing that sort of thing, and I have collaborated with various members of the Vampire the Masquerade community before. Just go and ask the Primogen. In fact, go and listen to his Giovanni Law episode where I make a cheeky little appearance. But yes, I kind of like the idea of that sort of thing, and of course, if anybody would like to collaborate with me of some description, ask away. I either say yay or nay. Thank you very much for your question, Max. The next 2 questions come from, oh good lord, I'm going to completely butcher your name now, Aria Hishk _art. I'm just going to call you Aria, if you don't mind. I have seen some of your art, and I absolutely adore it, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful paintings you do. Anyway, Aria, let's hear your questions.
What are your top 5 World of Darkness games, and what is your sect/cult/group?
Ooh, I like that second question a lot, but let's answer the first one first. Well, that would make sense. It was the first question you answered. Anyway, asked. Gosh, I'm doing terribly with English tonight. Anyway, top 5 World of Darkness games. Well, of course, number 1 is going to be Vampire the Masquerade, simply because that is the one that I'm most versed with. Now, everything else is a little bit of a vague pickle, because I am not so versed with all the others, you see. Well, I'm going to put Changeling the Dreaming at number 2, actually, simply because I was recently gifted the Changeling the Dreaming Mind's Eye Theatre book by By Night Studios. They do the LARP product for the World of Darkness stuff, and I am rather moved and excited by how strangely dark and macabre it all is. A lot of people describe Changeling as the happy-clappy game within the World of Darkness, and whilst I could see why they could think that, it is certainly the game with the most colour. I was talking to an associate of mine, a fellow member of the Vamlia, a wonderful woman known as Ellie Collins, who runs the Vampire the Masquerade game on the twitch.tv channel, whatever that means. And she was describing changing as it's like a smile, but they look all happy and sweet, but then you look a bit closer and the smile's just a little bit too wide, and you notice the teeth, and the teeth are fangs. You notice the glint in their eye. It's far more malicious than it is positive, and that was kind of the vibe I had been getting with the book as well, and I just think that people are not really appreciating the material for what it is. So that is going to be number 2. Number 3 is going to be Werewolf. Werewolf the Apocalypse, of course. So the reason being, again, like everything else, I am unsure about the material that I'm dealing with here, but my little exposure to it has been very exciting. That, of course, being the Heart of the Forest preview demo that I got my hands on earlier this year, the different tales people very kindly allowed me to, play and talk about, just to help people know and appreciate this beautiful sounding and looking game with a wonderful narrative so far. As with everything else, I'm afraid I cannot really answer because I do not know it all that well, so I hope my first 3 is okay all the same. Now, with regards to my sect/cult/group, and I think it's very, very interesting that you have put in cult in groups there. Now, as you may be aware, I have certain ties to the Talmahera, but I shan't say no more than that, because, well, how do you think I gained knowledge of them? As for my sect, well, as a kindred in the British Isles, my leaning towards the Camarilla is somewhat looser to the American and European variants, which no doubt I'll explain more in good time, but if I had to choose, it would be the Camarilla, because there was once a time where I would believe that they were the ones who would sort out the messes of our society, but what with Gehenna, the Beckoning, the Second Inquisition, they have just sort of retreated into the shadows far more than the Lasombo might. So, I'm unsure. It is for this reason that I am much certainly autarchus, but I will negotiate with all parties if and so the need requires. Thank you very much, Aria, for your questions. The final Instagram question comes from a fellow sewer rat associate of mine, a Dolores Draws who does the most beautifully macabre illustrations. You should really go and support her and possibly commission her for some of your works or characters. Please go and support the artist. Anyway, dear, what is your question?
Why do you like the Nosferatu? Black heart emoji.
Thanks, I am not used to that sort of affection. But why do I like the Nosferatu other than the completely biased they are my clan? But no, there is a serious question behind this, I suppose, or rather, it is an interesting question that requires a serious answer. Well, of course, as you may well know, my introduction to Vampire the Masquerade was through Bloodlines, and in that game you have the opportunity of partaking in a short quiz which determines your clan. Now, I may or may not have mentioned this before, either in the previous Q&A or elsewhere online, but when I did this quiz, I was the Tremere, and it was a very sociable Tremere, which was a big fucking mistake. Anyway, so I didn't really know about the clans all that well, besides my little introductions that the game presented to you, but when I started watching LA by Night, I was very much entranced by Alexander Ward's representation of the Nosferatu. There is something, I'm going to say magical, about the way that he moves and retorts his body like he's some grotesque creature, which makes total sense if you know his portfolio, but there was just something about it. I liked the idea that the Nosferatu could disappear, that they were ugly creatures, that people just came to them for information and pissed off. In a really sad way, it was something that I could associate with. Through most of my life, I was often the secret bearer within my school communities and college. The shoulder to cry on, and then nobody else wanted anything to do with me. So, that, and I have to admit, for the longest time I've had the lowest opinion of how I look, and, well, up until recently, I thought I was really unattractive and hideous, but someone out there within Vampire the Masquerade community has made me feel loved and attractive, and you know who you are. I shan't say any more than that. But yes, hopefully within that answers why I like the Nosferatu so much. It's, out of all the clans, they are the ones that I associate myself with the most as a human being. And that concludes the Instagram questions. Thank you very much, family, members of the Vampire the Masquerade community, for such intriguing questions. I wonder if Twitter is going to be as intellectual. I highly doubt it, but I will be more than happy to be surprised. But before we move on to them, let us go to our sponsors.
Friggin' Chicken recently challenged several random people to a taste test between Friggin' Chicken and the other leading chicken-flavored products. Let's listen for which one they preferred.
Ma'am, care to participate in a taste test? Here, try this leading brand of chicken.
Oh my gosh! Is that week-old fish?
Now, try this.
Oh! This is some good chicken! What is this?
Sir, take a test for me?
Sure. Seriously, do you have these up your ass?
Here, try this one.
Hey. Motherfucking great chicken right there. What is this?
It's friggin' chicken.
This is cat, right? Are you feeding me cat?
Try this.
Holy f***. That's good. What the f*** is this 9 out of 10 people preferred Friggin' Chicken over the competition. Why?
'Cause that's some good f***ing chicken. I mean, friggin' chicken.
Friggin' Chicken, you'll swear it's the best you've ever had. You love the talking baby movie, and the talking pig, and even the talking car in that show. You know the one I'm talking about. But now prepare for the most hilarious talkingest normally mute object yet. He's Steve Cash, a New York banker and recent whittler down on his luck.
And 10 makes 100. Here's your money, ma'am.
Ma'am, I happen to have a glandular problem. That's it. I'm withdrawing all my millions from this bank.
Cash! She's an ATM machine with the soul of his dead wife.
There's something familiar about this ATM machine.
I love you.
Wow, those marketing guys are geniuses.
Together, they're learning to make the most of their special situation.
So that girl from accounting used me today.
Really?
She wasn't like everybody else. When she pushed my buttons, she was very gentle.
Oh, honey, if you don't stop, I'm gonna have to make a deposit.
Transferring cash. Wednesdays at 8:30 in the BMC. Say goodbye to yellow teeth and spots in your dirty dishes.
It's incredible.
Look at that shine!
Your smile or these dinner plates?
Harnessing the secrets of ancient Egypt, now there's a dishwashing detergent so powerful, it doesn't just leave your dishes spotless, it actually whitens your teeth. Patented time-release spiritoids remove caked-on food and grease and remain on the plate to be absorbed into your food to clean your teeth while you eat. Dazatron, the dishwashing detergent of the future for cleaner plates and whiter teeth. Last year, Democratic candidate Michael Redmond bought a sports utility vehicle. 3 months later, there were 2 separate incidences of hit and runs by an unidentified SUV in his area. Is Democratic candidate Michael Redmond to blame? Can you afford to take that chance? Can your children? Vote Republican Senator Robert Thorne, a candidate that has never committed vehicular homicide. Democratic candidate Michael Redmond has never publicly stated his opinion on child pornography. Is it because he's hiding something? Would you want a child pornographer voting on this nation's laws? Could you trust your children's future to someone like that? Vote Republican Senator Robert Thorne, the candidate that is committed to locking up child pornographers. Democratic candidate Michael Redmond recently sued Senator Robert Thorne for accusing Redmond of being a murderous child pornographer. But Redmond had previously said he was against clogging up courts with frivolous lawsuits. Wouldn't this make him a hypocrite? Would you want a hypocrite as your next congressman? Would you want your children to become hypocrites? Vote Republican Senator Robert Thorne, a candidate not accused of being a murderous child pornographer.
In a world where people live and die.
Do you think you could just go in there and handle this by yourself?
If that's what it takes. He was about to meet his greatest foe.
Kill them all! All of them!
And a girl.
Hello.
Hi.
And a comic relief sidekick who won't make it to Act 3.
I picked the wrong month to cancel my life insurance.
No, don't say that. You're gonna make it. With a guy from that other movie that was slightly popular, and what's her name from that show you sometimes watch. In a movie with 2 spectacular CGI battle sequences and an advertising campaign that will leave you no choice but to see this film. See it, because it's a movie, and all your friends are going. In theaters Friday, and on DVD in 3 months.
Ha 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 ha! Got you, didn't I? No, at the time of recording, the Law by Night podcast has no sponsors, and you'll be hearing a bit more of those beautiful adverts later on. Now, why did I do this? Well, as a white British male, it means by default I'm a fucking cunt, a massive dickhead, so... But I'm sure you know this already. Now, let us get over this little mountain and let us go to the world of Twitter, where we have some interesting questions, I have no doubt. Now, the first question... Oh, beg your pardon. The first 2 questions comes from a ST Justin at haunted_gallows. Now, what interesting questions do you have, my fine good sir?
The hakata. I understand are a combination of the Giovanni, Cappadocian, and Nagaraja. What are they like now, and are they a fully unified clan, and what caused this unification? The second question, if the true Brujah essentially possessed the ability to travel in time, couldn't they just prevent Cain from killing Abel and stop the existence of kindred completely, thereby also preventing Gehenna?
There's some interesting questions that you have. Very, very interesting indeed. Maybe I underestimated Twitter somewhat. Anyway, let us address the first question that you asked first regarding hakata. Well, at the time of recording, my knowledge of hakata, which is really more of a sect more than clan in my honest opinion, but it could be a combination of various things. It could be that the fact, for the longest time, the Giovanni have hated all the other necromancers, and in turn, all the other necromancers have hated Giovanni, and they're beginning to realise that their activities are becoming rather noticeable, and the likes of the Second Inquisition are going, full pelting of destroying these bastards. So, there could be that element of it. They could realise that the Harbingers of Skulls, who have made a huge attack on the Giovannis in recent years, wanting to keep them under tighter reach. The Harbingers of Skulls are ruled by the Capuchin. The Capuchin are also the ones who are leading Hakata, to my understanding, but at the least. I cannot speak. That could be a possibility, but I am sure in good time within, the next year or so, where I'm able to collect more information from my associates, we'll be able to find out more of the truth. And regarding the true Brujah, who are most undeniably the most stupid bloodline that's ever bloodlined, yes, they very much could travel back in time to prevent all of this from happening, but, of course, doing so, they could create a time paradox, and I don't think they'd want that, or perhaps they do. Maybe they would just want to be the rulers over the rest of society. For they want Gehenna to come. They want Gehenna to destroy the other clans and the Brujah, the ones that have supported them. Perhaps that is their goal. Maybe the true Brujah actually wants to be rulers, and with the death of Cain before Abel, they wouldn't get what they want. But again, the true Brujah are the true Brujah. They're not as intellectual as one might think they are. But, of course, go and ask a true Brujah, and I'm curious to see what they would tell you. As I am not a true Brujah, I can only give you an outsider's opinion. But anyway, Mr. Haunted_Gallows, ST Justin, thank you very much for your questions. The next question comes from a Nathan Weaver at scienceinjureguy. What is your intellectual, deep and meaningful question, Mr. Weaver?
What's it like in Alabama?
Ha 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 ha! Shut up. For those of you who are not aware, there is this bizarre theory that is flying around the internet that both myself, the narrator, and Cappadocian or Harbinger of Skull, the gentleman, both reside in Alabama, in the US of A, the United States of America, which is stupid. Like, really stupid. And there was something very similar, that the Primogen is from Ireland, and he's from Sweden. There were some awfully thick members of this community, Neonate. You associate yourself with these people? That's disgusting. And that's coming from a Nosferatu, but I feel somewhat compliant to answer your question anyway. So, this is what I'm going to do. I've got my cellular phone device thingy here, a mobile phone. Am I saying that right, Neonate? I am. Marvellous. So I have my mobile phone here, and I'm going to open up Google Chrome, and I'm going to type in on my phone what the weather is like in Alabama on the 5th of September 2020. So we're just going to waste some time here. So I hope you're pleased with yourself. So into Google, what is the weather? Oh, I've spelt the wrong, so I've got to go back and correct that. The weather like in Alabama. Oh, I spelled Alabama wrong, so I've got to go back and change that. I hope you're really enjoying this, you insufferable leech. Alabama today, question mark, because we are British and we know how to do sentences properly. Okay, so in Birmingham, Alabama, in the USA, it is 32 degrees centigrade. Fuck me, that is rather hot. Like, that's really hot. It's a bit cloudy. The 0% precipitation, 45% humidity, and winds at 10 miles per hour. Fascinating. It is mostly sunny today. Well, listeners in Alabama, sounds like you have a fucking scorching day ahead of you. Stay covered up and stay indoors, because we're still in a bit of a pandemic. The COVID-19 is still at large. Anyway, Mr. Weaver, thank you very much for your question. I, for one, certainly enjoyed finding out what it's like in Alabama. I didn't even know there was a Birmingham in Alabama. Birmingham in the United Kingdom is up north somewhere, and everybody just sounds a little bit sad. Anyway, let us move on to the rest of the questions. Twitter question number 4 comes from a random at Ismail VRA. I hope I pronounced all of that correctly. Anyway, my good sir, what is your question?
What is the best clan book in your opinion? Brackets, VTM, close bracket, question mark.
Best clan book. Of course, I was expecting this question to come up at some point. The infamous Vampire the Masquerade, revised and original clan books, and Dark Ages as well. And, I have something to confess here. I haven't read any of them. I do not own any of them either. Simply because I have the most recent and up-to-date versions of them at the time of recording, which is, of course, Law of the Bloodlines and Law of the Clans for Vampire the Masquerade 20th Anniversary Edition. So, I'm going to cheat ever so slightly and mention one of those stories instead. In fact, I'm going to mention 2. I am rather fond, well, 1 each. 1 from Bloodlines and 1 from the Clans, which I think is fair. My favourite one from Bloodlines is The Harbingers of Skulls. It is beautifully written, and it really presents the Harbingers of Skulls in a way that I haven't seen mentioned anywhere else before. There is a strange, dark, and frightening aristocracy to them. It's a lot more etiquette to the Giovanni, a more refined Giovanni in a way, if that makes sense. They're very family-based by the looks of things, and I don't know, there's just a weird, sad, and frightening element towards the Harbingers of Skulls that I admire very much. But as with the Clans, Law of the Clans. Some days it is the Follower of Set story. Sometimes it is the Assamite story. So, I'm sort of cheating, actually, and giving you 2 from one and 1 from the other, so I might as well balance that with the Bloodlines now. I am also fond of the Kia-Seed story. Elements. Things. Anyway, that probably wasn't the question that you were asking, and it wasn't the answers that you wanted, but I hope they were entertaining all the same. Now, let us swiftly move on to the last Twitter question from a CWPV at CWPV_. What is your question?
What was the life of the storyteller Nosferatu like before the embrace? How old is he? What's your favourite cereal?
2 interesting questions followed by a silly one. That said, I did say ask me anything and I would answer it. Well, to answer the cereal question first, I don't eat cereal, because I'm a Nosferatu. But besides that, in all seriousness, I do not eat cereal. Partly because I have many allergies, or I want the mortals to believe that I have many allergies, if you see what I mean. And it's gluten and dairy-free diet for me. I'm like an animal to the zoo. Don't feed me, otherwise I'm kind of going to blow up. So, I do not eat cereals, I'm afraid, so I can't really answer that. But as for the other 2 questions, well, I saw The Fall of the Second City, or left shortly just afterwards, so that gives you a good idea of how old I would be, and to be completely honest, it was such a long time ago since I was a mortal, such a long time since I saw the sunrise. I am older than Mithras and some of the eldest Methuselahs. So, I see my days as kind, immortal, human, rather insignificant in the grand scheme of things, so, well, I suppose you want a bit more of a cemented answer than that, so what I'm going to say is that it was rather primitive, shall we say. Anywho, that concludes the Twitter questions. Thank you very much, family, members of the Vampire Masquerade community on Twitter, including that one asshat that had to address the whole Alabama thing. I mean, I understand that was a question in jest, you were in on the joke, but there are some determined people that I am making up this accent, that this isn't my real voice. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, this is what I sound like normally. I do sound rather sophisticated and semi-posh. I like to describe myself as, the way that my voice sounds, it's BBC News Reporter London neutral. I don't have my own accent. Like, I've never picked up my own accent. It's, you know, I can't even say the joke because I don't want you to know where I live, but I sound like this. I am British. This is my actual voice. And then I sit up a little bit more and I become the narrator. So anyway, getting back into character now. Colin, would you mind just telling the listeners, those who constantly persist to the idea that I am not British, can you just tell them what we think of them?
Yeah, sure thing. Oh look, they're a bunch of fat, smelly cunts, and they need to go back to school.
Magnificently said as always, Colin. Now get out of here and go and have some rats. And the kine and kindred and canites sitting and listening to at home, you should go and enjoy yourselves for a little bit too, for we are going to have some more adverts.
Yay!
Bill's here. Gotta run. Great breakfast, honey.
Have a good day, dear. I'm glad you liked the muffins.
Hey, what's that on the counter? That's not my margarine. That's butter.
It's...
Bitch! You know I'm supposed to watch my LDL levels.
I thought it would be a nice change. You couldn't even tell.
You don't want a divorce. You're trying to kill me. I'm glad I slept with your sister.
I thought it was margarine grade B butter. Well, there ants a taste of margarine with all the saturated fat of butter.
You are on fire, Bill! I finally took your advice and you were right. I feel more confident than ever. You the man, isn't it great? I couldn't even believe it. We went out to dinner and afterwards we started getting busy. I went into the bathroom to take it. I could feel it right away. Hell, you could see the title change in the toilet bowl.
The Visatrack. For an ordinary drug-enhanced erection just isn't enough. Common side effects include fainting, tingling in extremities, temporary blindness, deathly pallor, time perception distortions, aggravated bladder syndrome, emotional incest, pronounced incontinence, delusions of grandeur, and elevated risk of stroke.
Grandpa, will you take me to Spaceburger?
Spaceburger, huh? You know, when I was your age, space was mostly a mystery. We didn't know what was up there. Why, I thought there were little alien kids on Mars that might be watching me. Yeah, I used to make signs for them saying, "Hello, Martians," or "Give me a ride on your rocket craft." Of course, I was young and naive, thinking Martians could read English. Everyone knew Martians communicated telepathically through space operators on their moon base.
Billy, what did I tell you about talking to Grandpa?
But I want to go to Spaceburger.
Spaceburger. This looks like a job for Commander Mom. Report to the space van.
Oh, boy.
We can drop Grandpa off at the home on the way there.
Of course, you don't see Martians on space probes. Everyone knows Martians live in invisible domes.
Spaceburger, food for the space age, not old age. Last year, Democratic candidate Michael Rebbins bought a sports utility vehicle. 3 months later, there were 2 separate incidences of hit and runs by an unidentified SUV in his area. Is Democratic candidate Michael Rebbins to blame? Can you afford to take that chance? Can your children? Vote Republican Senator Robert Thorne, a candidate that has never committed vehicular homicide. Democratic candidate Michael Rebbins has never publicly stated his opinion on child pornography. Is it because he's hiding something? Would you want a child pornographer voting on this nation's laws? Could you trust your children's future to someone like that? Vote Republican Senator Robert Thorne, the candidate that is committed to locking up child pornographers. Democratic candidate Michael Rebbins recently sued Senator Robert Thorne for accusing Rebbins of being a murderous child pornographer. But Rebbins had previously said he was against clogging up courts with frivolous lawsuits. Wouldn't this make him a hypocrite? Would you want a hypocrite as your next congressman? Would you want your children to become hypocrites? Vote Republican Senator Robert Thorne, a candidate not accused of being a murderous child pornographer. Money troubles, need cash quick, why not try mugging someone? These are exactly the kind of questions the criminals are asking themselves right now. Did you know that the government requires you to wait 10 days for a gun? Why, in that time, a criminal could kill your family 50 times over. So how does a law-abiding citizen like yourself get a theft deterrent system in their hands in the next hour? Come to Loophole Lenny's. We've got antique military weaponry from blunderbusses to World War I grenades. Modern muggers may be stronger and faster than they used to be, but that doesn't mean they can take a slug fired by a Civil War-era pistol any better. And if If you're the kind of person that can't sleep at night knowing serial rapists might be in your front yard, we've got German sniper rifles approved by the Kaiser himself that'll make picking them off one by one from the safety of your roof no problem. Buy a weapon this month and we'll throw in an ammo belt with the Constitution printed on it free of charge. Loophole Lenny's, defending your tomorrow with the weapons of yesterday, today.
Ah, would you look at this?
What's that?
Plague of locusts descend on small Indian town.
Jeez, I can't imagine what that must be like.
And look at this. Civil war still raging between ethnic factions in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, heard about that.
And in Zimbabwe, they got to use ox carts for ambulances.
That's terrible. Hey, it's a good thing we live in the U.S.
It sure is, buddy. Hey, bartender, 2 more U.S. ales?
U.S. ale. Welcome to the United States of Inebriation.
And now we go to what is essentially the fat bastard of the Ask Me Anything Q&A 1500 YouTube subscriber special, which is the Discord server, which is, just scrolling through here, there's quite a lot of questions. So, we're going to be here for a while, so I hope you've managed to go to the toilet in that time and fed, you hungry bastards. Now, let us ask with the first question that comes from Josh Punctremere. What is your question?
How are you? Smiley face emoji?
I am perfectly adequate, thank you ever so much for asking. Now, let us move on to the next question, which comes from Buggy. Oh gosh, that is a lot of emojis you've got next to your name. Let's do that again. That is Buggy, exclamation mark, bee, caterpillar, butterfly, ladybug, and spider. What is your question?
We're asking again, but are you taking care of yourself? Laser emoji eyeballs.
Yes, I am. Right, we now move on to the physicist. What is your question, Mr. Tremere from Down Under?
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Anyway, do you have any exciting games you're looking for to play, both in video games and tabletop role-playing games?
Ooh, interesting. Well, the first question, that depends on the number of woodchucks and the amount of wood they are chucking. As for the second question... I suppose a question... Well, an answer that answers both the video game and tabletop role-playing games is cyberpunk. I've always liked the sci-fi approach to things and the blend it has on a modern setting and, the whole cyberpunk aesthetic. I find it particularly interesting. I am, of course, also very, very excited to play Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, that is presuming that we will ever get it, Vampire the Masquerade Swansong, well, the Apocalypse Heart of the Forest, and the other one that they're doing, Earthblood. And, I'm also looking forward to Vampire the Masquerade Shadows of New York, which, more than likely, I would have played by the time that this episode goes live. This special episode, I should say. But as for anything else that isn't related to World of Darkness and cyberpunk... I can't immediately think of anything, but no doubt if I come up with something and we're in the live chats on the YouTube, I will mention it there. If I could think of something else to mention. Anyway, thank you very much, Physicist, for your enlightening questions. Next we have a question from Charlotte of Clan Toya. A question from Charlotte of Clan Toria. Charlotte, Clan of the Rose. What is... Sorry. What is your question?
With all the episodes that you have done to date, what is your number one favourite?
Well, as any creative artiste would tell you, I do not have any favourites unless it's the one I am working on currently, which at the time of recording, it would have been... What was the episode I was working on last? Oh yes, the Ishtari Legacy, which are one of the Lyrebomb, the Kindred of the Ebony Kingdom. However, that is a fucking lie, because I did not enjoy writing that. But, okay, so out of the episodes that I've done prior to that one, I rather enjoyed doing the Nosferatu episode because that was the episode where the whole world was able to work out what the clan I was, presuming they hadn't worked it out already. I also thoroughly enjoyed doing the Gargoyle episode for introducing Colin and how lovely it was for, how much people like him. But can I tease this episode to you? There are 2 episodes that I have written that I have yet to record. Well, I've recorded one of these, but I have yet to record another. So, actually, no, you would have heard this episode by the time this comes out. The Foreman Twins lore episode. That has a new character in it, Pink the Nosferatu, a younger associate of mine. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that one, just using a different voice of mine, just to stretch the vocal muscles, as it were. Actually, you know, the episodes I enjoy doing are the ones that have the unique characters in them. But the other episode that I have yet to record is an episode on blood sorcery and rituals, because that one... excuse me, sorry, that Toreador gag is coming back. The blood sorcery and rituals episode, because that one was recommended by a member of the family, and when they presented their thoughts and findings on the matter, I just sat down and thought, yes, there's a lot of really good points here. Yes. That, and it also led on to me being in a relationship with said person, but we're not going to go into that because I'm entitled to a private life. Anywho, thank you very much, Charlotte. I'm not going to say the clan name because we do not want to go through all of that again, I am sure. The next question comes from a Mo cultist. I'm sorry, I cannot read. Yes, I can. That is a lie. Mo cultist. What is your question for me to answer?
I'm not sure if this has been asked before, but are you going to expand outside the VTM games like Mage the Ascensions, Wealth the Apocalypse, and whatnot?
That is a good question. I do very much intend on doing that. I can give you an immediate example. When I get around to talking about necromancy, that will be a nice little segue into Wraith the Oblivion. As for the others, once I get hold of those books, and once I get the time to unwind and sit down and just absorb that sweet, dank lore and just lap it up like a kitten with milk, then of course I will expand upon those, but just remember how long it's been taking me to do vampire, and all great things comes to those who wait. You cannot rush art, and Rome was not built in a day, but in short, yes, but soon. Next we have a question from Noir Ella Santiago. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It is not in my native tongue, so I have probably butchered that somewhere along the line. Anyway, Noir, what's your question?
What's your favourite colours?
Well, they are the colours that contemplate and reflect my soul, black and blue. Anyway, let us move on to... Oh, physicist again. What is your question?
What's your favourite shapes?
The circle. Now we move on to a question from Helt, the unamused La Sombra. What is your question, Magister?
Who is your favourite moderator?
Oh, you sly keeper, you sly keeper. But that's a good question. Who is my favourite moderator? It is so difficult to choose because you all just do such a wonderful job of just holding the fort when I am not here attending business or, to my life in general. In fact, I refuse to choose, simply for the reasons I've just said. You're all marvellous in your own magical and mysterious ways. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for doing such a marvellous job at upholding the law by night standard. I love you all. Now we move on to the physicist again, the Tremere from down under. What is your question?
What's your favourite foods and drinks, and what foods and drinks do you hate? Who's your favourite member of the Law by Night Discord server in general?
Foods and drinks, and again, more favoritism. Okay, so foods and drinks that I like. Well, as mentioned previously, I have many an allergy, so they're very meal specific, I guess. It's not like snacks and fizzy drinks related. There is a home recipe that I enjoy. It's a chicken and bacon pasta meal with a homemade secret tomato sauce that I wouldn't share with you. As for foods and drinks that I don't like, well, with regards to drinks, because I forgot to mention that, the only thing I can really drink is water. Yes, it's that bad. But for foods I don't like, it's mostly vegetables. Brussels sprouts are the worst. I actually remember answering this last time. They are the snot balls of Satan. The barley are more pure than Brussels sprouts. Those fucking green round bastards are just... Ugh, it just makes the Toreadors look attractive. Now, moving on to my favourite member of the Law by Night Discord server. Well, I suppose you would think this would be a very difficult question to ask. But, actually, this requires no thought at all. I know exactly who the favourite member is. It's me! Ah! In all seriousness, it is me. Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. We now go on to Dustin Varel, a fellow member of Clan Nosferatu, a neonate, as he so pronounces himself. What is your question?
Have you ever met a hungry dead or travelled to the Middle Kingdom before?
Hungry Dead. I cannot say that I've heard that name before, and I can only presume that it is one of two things. As you asked about the Middle Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, Orlok. Get your pronunciations right. Hungry Dead is either, in my mind at least, a white or some weird derogatory term to the Kuei-jin, the Wong Kuei, the kindred of the East. I have met Kuei-jin before. I don't know what's happened to her, associate to Min Zhao. In Los Angeles, she was, I suppose, the Baron of Chinatown. There is a proper title for that, but I've already discussed that with you. Or have I? I cannot remember. Anyway, and have I travelled to the Middle Kingdom before? Once, it was a very, very long time ago. It's a very different structure and climate to what it is now, I am sure. So, describing it to you, I suppose, would have to wait till another time. Oh look, we have more questions from the physicist. I'm beginning to see a bit of a pattern here. Anyway, what is your question, Warlock?
What are your personal thoughts on each of the clans? Are there any you hate or being near?
Well, I hate all the clans, really, some more so than others, and to go through the ones that I like, well, it is Nosferatu, and even then, it is one Nosferatu, and that is myself. I like certain members of each clan. I have no idea what the neonate is. He's some sort of caitiff. And then there's Colin the Gargoyle, who is just so cute and adorable, just want to pinch his stone cheeks. Anyway, but any particular examples I could name to you? The true Brujah, I've got no idea what they did. As we've discussed earlier before, they're just a bit dumb. Like, they were only created so people could play Mage to the Ascension. The Barley, as interesting as the concept they are just far too edgy for my liking. Again, they seem to have created so people could play Demon the Fallen. And the Harbingers of Skulls, as much as I like them, I somehow feel that they were created so people could play Wraith the Oblivion. But then again, I guess that's why they created Kindred of the East. But only clans that I really do despise, well, yes, they are actually. My least favourite clan is the Brujah, partly because there are two pronunciations. I'm forever being told of which one is correct, even though I know, damn right, it is Brujah, but, you know, white people. But the Brujah are just very one note. They just fighting what's right, and, you know, just that free, angsty spirit that just never seems to get them anywhere. It's just a bit, as I said, one note. We now go to Marmalade Girl, and there's a song I want to sing now, but I'm not going to because I'm going to ruin a classic 1970s disco bop. So anyway, Marmalade Girl, what is your question?
Which character from the lore would you most like to meet and which least? And why?
Well, to be completely honest, I don't want to meet any of them because they're all fucking frightening. For various different reasons, like none of them are pleasant, none of them I would like to sit down and have a cup of tea with or some coffee. They're all horrible. I'm sorry, there isn't a single character in the lore that I would personally like to meet without thinking, oh shit, I'm going to die now. So let us move swiftly onward from that and go, oh, it's the physicist again, what a surprise. What is your question?
Would you ever do a virtual meeting with members of the Discord server?
This has been asked many times before, both in and out of Q&As, and, well, to be completely honest, it is something that I would like to do someday. How I'd go about doing it is beyond me, because there's quite a lot of members on the Discord server, and trying to cherry-pick who to do what with, it's a bit difficult, you see. But, soon, I reckon, we will work it out somehow, Mr. Physicist. Now we have a question from Senile Philosophy. What is your question?
Are you interested into looking into the Chronicles of Darkness game lines, like Vampire the Requiem, Werewolf the Forsaken, or any other ones?
It is something that I have considered from time to time, but, again, similar to the question regarding to other World of Darkness games, I need the money and the time to go through the books and properly appreciate them before I start talking about them or, just wanting to learn about them and to play them. It all requires time and money, things that I am rather scarce of at the moment, but for the short answer, yes, but soon. Huzzah! Finally, a different member of the Discord server wants to ask me a question. And Alex, what would you like to ask?
What setting would you like to see for the vampire games and lore?
Now that is a very interesting question. I can see by the bleeps and bloops on the machine in my peripheral vision that is quite a popular question. Well, this is going to be a tad biased, but hear me out. I would actually like to see a proper London by Night of some description book. There is one, and that is for the Victorian age setting. Well, there's technically two, because you have Dark Ages Europe. 3, actually, you have Dark Ages British Isles, but I'm not going to count The Fall of London because that book is a little bit yikes in terms of quality, and it's more of a storybook. There isn't really much of a UK setting. That's what I would love to see. I would like to have a World of Darkness vampire book that is based in the UK, because it's either all Europe or America, and as I have been reading a lot about recently, there is quite a bit of different nuances when compared to the rest of the World of Darkness world that the UK has. And I would just, as a British person, I'd love to see that, and the fact that you have a lot of the writers of the games who are based in Britain, it was just nice for me to open a book and see places that I'd recognise, and likewise it'd be nice if there were like other source books from other countries as well. And being the weeb that I am, I'd like to see an Asian one that's done properly and respectfully so we don't get another Kindred of the East blunder. Now we have a question from Mr. or Mrs. Nerdbert, presuming that you assign yourself with he or she. You could be they for all I know. Anyway, Nerdbert, what is your question?
What do you plan to do going forward?
That's a fair enough question, a very sensible question in fact, one that shows that you're keen and interested in the development of the Lore by Night podcast, as all the vampire clans and most of the bloodlines have been covered. And I say most because there are some rather obscure lesser ones that need to be discussed. Some very interesting ones, I believe, so there's that element of it as well. In addition to this, I'm afraid of mentioning too much because I have written a blog article regarding my plans going forward, which I shall release on the 26th of September of 2020, this year at the time of recording, simply because that would be the 1-year anniversary of the podcast, and I have used this blog just to talk about my plans going forward, so I'm not going to spoil that for you now, but just know that I have given it thought and there is a lot of things coming towards you. And I think it's time that we all should have a little break and go and listen to a lovely advert whilst we go and relieve ourselves. So advert in 3, 2, 1, pow!
Does your penis always seem to be getting in the way?
I got the last of the groceries, honey. I just need to close the trunk. Whoa!
One more nail and this birdhouse will be as good as new.
Yo!
I'm sorry, sir. This dressing room is for women only.
You don't have to let this happen to you. Hi, I'm Dr. Fred Tuck. Don't let your penis interfere with the quality of your life anymore. I have performed over 300 sex changes in my career, and not one of my patients has ever asked for their tackle box back. Come to Tuck's Sex Exchange in the next month, and I'll give you a free estimate. Don't let your peace interfere with your peace of mind.
Tuck's Sex Exchange, located off Beverly Drive. Look for the sign with Toothy, the surgical saw. Tired of sluggish internet access?
Mom, the internet's all slow again.
I'm not your mom. I'm the creature that evolved out of your mom.
Sick of unwanted spam?
Another email message from my old college roommate, Rod Hughes. Oh my.
Computer problems make it frustrating to log on?
Error 432, network access remote server memory allocation assessment table exceeded. Hard drive reformatting will now commence. What?
Looking for something that requires no logons, no unwanted email, coherent sentences, and no technical problems whatsoever? Read a book. Books, the original internet.
terrorists are prepared to destroy the largest dam in America. Again.
When she bomb goes off, this Hoover will be caught with his panties down.
And only this renegade cop and his ex-wife's manicurist stand between destruction and unexpected love.
I'll just file you as DOA.
This summer, all bets are off. The heat is on. The fix is in. The dogs are out. The game is up. The chips are down. The stakes are high. The odds are low. The danger is huge. The payoff is slim. Friendships will be made. Rules will be broken. Wrongs will be righted. And no unturned stone will be left. Get ready to be turned inside out and upside down. Hoover 2, Hydroelectric Boogaloo. The best damn movie you'll see this year.
When I'm grinding the reverse Poindexter 540 to Ollie northbound to Contraband, I can't think about being bloated. That's why every morning I down a Pound Ground, a gentle extreme laxing sports drink. Because when you're pulling a wicked Scowcroft 720, you don't want anything to slow you down.
Oh, I do love that chew. A proper banger, that one. Yes. Quite. Am I doing this right? No? Oh, we're live again. Oh, beg your pardon. Hello, welcome back. We have more questions on the Discord server because, as I said, it's the big bastard. So, we now go to Deanna Lee. What's the question that you would like to ask?
Which clan would you be if Nosferatu was not an option?
How could you say something so monstrous? I'm kidding, it's fine. The narrator was going to be Keoseed at one point, and he was even going to be a gargoyle in suit and tie and a little trilby, just because I thought the idea was hysterical. But then I settled with Nosferatu, so I presume that was the question that you wanted to ask. But if not, what other clans would I associate with myself? Well, believe it or not, all the jokes aside, Toreador because of my musical prowess, shall we say, and there are some elements about myself that would associate myself with the Malkavian, so that hopefully answers your question somewhere along the line. And Nerdbert returns once again. What do you wish to ask?
Is it becoming harder or easier to make these podcasts?
Both. Allow me to explain. It is becoming easier for me to do, as in the writing and the recording process of it, because it's much easier for me to get into character and like the whole mental aspect of it. But it is becoming a tad harder in areas to research and talk about, because the more that I write, the more it begins to realise that I am actually running out of things to write about in regards to vampire material, so I will get to that hurdle when I get to it, so as I said, it is both easier and harder. And now we have a question from Marmalade Girl. That wasn't the song, I just needed to bust it into song then. Anyway, what is your question, Marmalade Girl?
If you could interview anyone, who would it be?
That is a very interesting question. Going back to the interviewing idea I mentioned way back during this Q&A, I would like to start interviewing fellow content creators first, simply because I think it's a bit more interesting, because everybody has heard so many interviews with the people who write the games, the books, blah blah blah, but I just want to sit down with my fellow friends, my fellow content creators, and just chat shit about vampires and the world of darkness in general. But to answer your question, I have a small little list of people I'd like to question. But do I answer them now, or do I leave it as a surprise? Okay, I would mention one person I would like to interview. There is a storyteller who runs a vampire chronicle on Twitch called BG by Night. That's the game, short for Bowling Green by Night, and that is run by a storyteller and dear friend of mine who goes by the name of Faye the Pagan, because we've had some chats about vampire here and there amongst other things, but I think it would be rather cool just to have an entire time just talking about vampire. Similarly with my other storyteller friend, Ailey Collins, because again, we've had some vampire stuff peppered in there, but it'd be rather nice just to have like a full-on debate, conversation sort of thing about vampire, so I feel that would be fun. Oh, we have a follow-up question from Nerdbert. What would you like to ask?
To expand upon that, who would you like to work with, meet, play with?
Yes, very interesting indeed. Well, that kind of connects back to the previous question. There's a handful of vampire friends that I would like to play games with. There's Ellie, there's Faye the Pagan. Of course, the fangirl within me would like to do a game or 2 or 5 with the likes of Outstar, Jason Carl, Mr. Dawkins, Matthew Dawkins, the Gentleman Gamer. I don't know. It's all the people you could expect, really, you know. Just to see how we could bounce off ideas of each other. But with regards to work with, I mean, if you mean work with regards to the podcast, at the moment I'm quite happy with just doing things on my own and just the occasional guest or two popping in for a K-night conversation. So, other than that, I don't particularly want to work with anybody. Oh, we have a question from Boogie Nation, or Bogey Nation. I'm not quite too sure how to pronounce that. I'm going to go with Bogey Nation purely because I'm a child and I find that funny. What is your question?
What are your favourite concepts or themes you like to explore with World of Darkness?
Ooh, well, obviously the whole personal horror aspect of what it means to be a vampire and coming to terms with that. Oh, obviously talking about Vampire the Masquerade, because still to this day that is the only game that I have really played. In addition to this, I love the idea of true faith, that the fact that it even exists, that how religion can be used to ward off a vampire, but true faith isn't just to do with Catholicism, it could be any religious belief, and, well, you could argue that it could even be tied to true love, the strong idea, the fact that you love something or somebody so strongly that alone could banish the undead, as it were. And I feel that true faith hasn't really been employed all that much in the games. It's mentioned as a concept, but it's never really explored with what to do with, but then again, how do you deal with that? It's something that I feel that's most prominent in Dark Ages settings, which again, are very lackluster. So those are the two things I'd like to explore in games, the personal horror and true faith, which is funny really because I'm not really a religious person. And we return to Marmalade Girl for a question. What would you like to ask me, dear?
Which book most needs an overhaul and why?
Well, I have 2 answers to this, and they are Kindred of the East and Kindred of the Ebony Kingdom. Read them both, and then you'll know why. Ah, the physicist returns from a land down under. What is your question?
What is the funniest meme of World of Darkness material you have seen so far? Was it shown to you by a member of the Discord server?
Now, I cannot remember if this was shown to me by somebody on the Discord server, but it's a character sheet for Kane. And it's a ridiculous character sheet because it's your standard Vampire the Masquerade character sheet, and just most of it's just covered in the letters, "You fucking lose." Oh, that meme is particularly dank. Oh, and you have another question. Sorry, I didn't realise I was interrupting you. Please, carry on.
Are you a fan of the Deus Ex franchise?
Ooh, there's a bit of a curveball there, a little bit sneaky. You succeeded on those roles, didn't you? It is almost unacceptable, actually, that you weren't asking something World of Darkness related. I say almost because this is Ask Me Anything, and also, I do like the Deus Ex franchise, or rather, I like the first one, which in my opinion is the only one that matters. Just the super-powered nature that is J.C. Denton, and his powers of autism is just mind-bogglingly inspiring. I just love it. And the memes, the memes. I do adore that game, and the memes are just, mwah, chef's kiss. And we return to Marmalade Girl yet again with more questions. Ask away.
Can we get a do-over for 2020? Please. Anyway, what film can you quote line for line? If the world wasn't ending and your very presence a breach for the masquerade, where in the world would you most like to visit?
Can we get a do-over for 2020? No, because fuck you. Fuck all of us, really. Oh, if only if I could cry. What film can I quote line for line? Well, once upon a time, I used to be able to quote the entirety of The Lion King. The original, not the diatribe, that is the live-action remake, although remake is a very... Anyway, and where would I like to visit? Well, I actually answered to this in the previous Q&A. I'd like to visit Paris or Japan because I'm a soppy romantic and a weeb. Put those descriptions in the correct countries. A challenger approaches. Nereza, what's your question?
If you could create your own clan, what would it be or look like?
Now, you'd expect this to be quite the complicated question, but I thought this very, very hard, and I know exactly what I would do. I would start by destroying all the bloodlines, just wiping all those little shits off the face of the planet. I would get rid of all the Finbloods and the Kaitivs, all of those miscreants, all those rabble, the ones that we like to pretend don't exist, okay? Then, I would destroy all the clans, except for one. That clan being Nosferatu. That's the perfect clan. And we have another question from Deanna Lee. What is your question?
Which clan of the Hakata are you most interested in, if any, and why? Also, which role-playing system do you find easier, the one back from the 90s or the one now?
Interesting stuff. Out of the Hakata clan, sect, group, whatever you want to call them, I think my favourite would have to be the Cappadocians. As interesting as the Giovanni are, I always have a soft spot for the Cappadocians who were unlawfully destroyed. Poor bastards. With regard to the roleplay system, I guess you are referring to what do I prefer, V5 or stuff before V5. In terms of the systems, I know this is going to annoy some people, but I find it a little bit easier to attach to the older systems, and I'm not sure why. I mean, that's not to say that I don't like the V5 system. I've just recently done a review saying how much I do like the V5 systems. It's just, I don't know, it's just the older systems it just pulls me a little bit more. Now we have a question from Sowie? Sowie? I'm not too sure how to pronounce that. It's spelled Souwe, so the Sowie is what I'm going to go with. Anyway, what is your question?
What is the campaign you enjoyed the most playing and master?
Well, at the time of recording, I haven't actually done any proper storytelling, but I hope to change that soon, as I'm sure many of you are aware. But in terms of playing, well, from recent memory, the one I enjoyed the most was the V5 starter pack set thing, New Blood, I think it was called. It is what I played with Foxfire22 on her Twitch channel, which you should go and check out. If it's not there, you can find it on her YouTube channel, and I'm sure if you ask the nice lady nicely, she'll give you the nice link to the nice video on the nice channel, and I don't know why there's so many nices all nicing everywhere. Anyway, thank you for your question. And now we have some questions from Saved Spawn. And oh, Colin, these are questions for you. Here you go. Look at you getting all famous-like. Anyway, prepare yourself, Colin. Here are the questions.
How are your burns doing? And did Orlok make you kill that Brujah as a boon?
My burns are doing much better now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And no. Orlok didn't ask me to kill the Brujah. That was all me. I wanted to kill the fat bastard. He was a right fucking bastard!
Easy, Colin, easy. You're disturbing the books on the bookshelves again, and I've just tidied this place up. Nice going, Mr. Dave Spawn. Whatever your name is, Saved Spawn. Oh, and it appears that you have some more questions, and they appear to be directed at me. Is that correct, Neonate? Okay, ask your questions now.
Orlok the Nosferatu. Are you still calling yourself the narrator?
It is an interesting question that you ask, because, yes, every so often I refer to myself as the narrator. It was not a title that I signed myself, no. It was ascribed to me by various princes and archbishops and the like of various domains to teach insufferable neonates like the one that I have the misfortune of living with the laws and the ways of our society, like a teacher of sorts, but as our teachings are a history of story upon story, I have been ascribed to the title of the narrator, and I cannot remember who was the first person to call me that. It was a very long time ago. Oh yes, I do remember who gave me that title. It was back in the 13th century, about 1242. I was residing in Winchester, and the Baron of Winchester, and by Baron I mean the title was assigned to a prince in the British Isles during this point in history, but this Baron referred to herself as Queen as Melusine d'Anjou. She was the first person to give me the title of narrator. At first I was kind of repulsed by it, but, you know, I kind of liked being the undead storyteller. Oh, it seems that you have more questions. Lots more questions indeed. Anyway, ask away, saved Spawn.
I have noticed alongside the podcast there is gameplay on the YouTube channel. Please teach Colin the Gargoyle to play Skyrim.
I have no idea what a Skyrim is, so I can only presume that is the neonates doing for uploading game footage on my podcast YouTube channel. But I suppose it's fine, because it seems that people are watching it and enjoy themselves, and, well, I do not know much about video games, but, Colin, as this question's more thing for you, would you like to, interject here?
Yeah, sure thing, Orlok. I can't do video games all that well, because my hands are too big, and the controls they're just so tiny, and the games are so hard. They hurt my brain!
Mr. Spawn, I hope you are proud of yourself. That is twice you have upset my gargoyle. Do it a third time and I'll hunt you down like a dog. But thank you very much for your questions all the same, because I have learned so much new things about Colin now. Why one of those video game controllers was yeeted through my window, as the neonates called it. I still don't know what yeeted means. It means to throw. Then why couldn't you have just said thrown? Oh, I'm sorry, we're getting off topic here. Deanna Lee returns with more questions. What are your questions?
Which do you prefer playing, Vampire the Masquerade or Vampire the Dark Ages?
Ooh, very interesting questions. Now, I have to admit that I have only actually played Vampire the Masquerade. However, I find Vampire the Dark Ages considerably more interesting, so I hope that answers your question, but with a twist. On a related note, here is a plot twist. We have one more advert to show off, as that's what the machine is telling me anyway, which is rather convenient, because we're beginning to run out of questions on the Discord server at long last. I mean, it's such a shame that it's coming to an end so quickly. Anyway, go and relieve yourselves, and listen to one more advert.
Last year, Democratic candidate Michael Redmond bought a sports utility vehicle. 3 months later, there were 2 separate incidences of hit and runs by an unidentified SUV in his area. Is Democratic candidate Michael Redmond to blame? Can you afford to take that chance? Can your children? Vote Republican Senator Robert Thorne, a candidate that has never committed vehicular homicide. Democratic candidate Michael Redmond has never publicly stated his opinion on child pornography. Is it because he's hiding something? Would you want a child pornographer voting on this nation's laws? Would you trust your children's future to someone like that? Vote Republican Senator Robert Thorne, the candidate that is committed to locking up child pornographers. Democratic candidate Michael Redmond recently sued Senator Robert Thorne for accusing Redmond of being a murderous child pornographer. But Redmond had previously said he was against clogging up courts with frivolous lawsuits. Wouldn't this make him a hypocrite? Would you want a hypocrite as your next congressman? Would you want your children to become hypocrites? Vote Republican Senator Robert Thorne, a candidate not accused of being a murderous child pornographer. Preparing for a business sales pitch but don't know how to sell your ideas? Try virtual meeting.
So, if we divert advertising away from expensive television spots and spread it around full-page ads in the leading men's magazines, we can...
That's an idea, but here is what I think we should do.
But I didn't finish.
Yes, that's a good point, but everyone listen to my idea.
But I think...
That's true. However, I don't think that our target market will be willing to accept such a radical approach. Listen to what I have to say on the subject. Are you ready? Good. This is a winner.
And virtual meeting doesn't just help with meetings. It can also prepare you for debating your ideas on the internet.
So, I think if the Democrats are going to have a chance at the office, they are going to have to embrace the more liberal sect of the voter bloc.
Shut up, f***ard.
I majored in political science. I think I know what I'm talking about here.
Laughing out loud. You are so gay.
Virtual meeting. The only meeting preparation device to own.
That was a good idea, which was mine originally. F***ard.
In 1984... a generation of children were introduced to a toy that became an instant classic. 20 years later, that toy is transforming to blend into a whole new environment.
Hey, Bob, right? Mind if I borrow your stapler? You want staples? Get some of these, Execucon! Nah!
Take control of the noble office bots as they wage slave their secret war against the evil Execucons.
Hey, I'm gonna be here pretty late. Do you mind if I get a cup of that coffee?
Graphitron transform! Coffee is for closers, office bot!
Collect 30 different corporate robots as they battle for workplace supremacy.
Look out, Optical Mouse Prime, it's Cell Phoner!
I've got your number, employees, and you're all getting called in this weekend!
Office bots, transform and clock in.
Deformers!
You live. You die. And sometimes you get brought back to life. This fall.
I'm afraid I can't see too well these days. Do you think you could go to the nearest village and pick me up a loaf of bread?
Bread! Good!
The new horror RPG from Troika Games.
Bread!
Oh, I can tell you where the bakery is, stranger, but before I do, would you mind picking up my little girl from the lake?
You are the monster. Or are you?
If you want to enter this bakery, you'll have to defeat me. And this torch!
Frankenstein, Breadlust, coming soon to a PC near you.
Game! Good.
And we return once more for a batch of Law by Night Discord server questions. Now here is a user by the name of Rabbit, who appears to have a rather deep and meaningful, intellectual and insightful question. What would you like to ask?
If a chicken is turned into a vampire, would it have to cross the road by night?
Only if it has permission to do so. Right, the next question comes from a Leavenel? I believe that's how it's pronounced. Levenael? Levenel. Leave. We're going to go for leave. Leave, what would you like to ask?
Some kindred feed on other kindred. Can that blood bind you to the vampires you feed from? Also, what is your stance on blood bonding?
Very, very interesting questions here. The interesting and sort of taboo topic that is feeding on other vampires. Part 1, yes, absolutely. If you drink from a vampire, and if they're still alive, well, you know what I mean, unalive, I suppose. If they are still up and about, moving about, and you drink from them, yes, that does blood bond you to them, or at least it sets you off in the right direction. Whether that is a vampire that can only feed on other vampires, that chooses to feed on other vampires, or drinks the blood of another vampire to learn a discipline that is not usually associated with their own clan, it blood bonds them, or it sets them off in the right direction. And my opinion on blood bonding? It is a necessary evil. And I know my neonate is just giving me the most fearful of looks, but there are some individuals out there that need to be bound and put into place. And as I've said in a previous episode, both in and out of a Q&A, blood bonding differences between the Camarilla and the Sabbat are very different, and they hold different purposes. A helt unamused La Sombra appears from the shadows. You have another question for me, it seems. Ask away.
What's your least favourite thing about Nosferatu lore and Nosferatu in general?
That got me right in the feels for a moment there. You never want to shy away from asking the hard questions. Okay, we can get through this. Least favourite thing about Nosferatu lore? Well, I hate the idea that Absamiliard and Arakel were a fiend. That's just disgusting. It's Toreador propaganda, that's what it is. And I've never liked the idea that so many of my ancestors, my uncles and aunts, if you would, were all bloodbound to Absamiliard, especially how they all just broke away and did their own thing anyway. I just don't believe it. I don't buy into that nonsense whatsoever. So those are the things I don't like about the clan. And, oh dear, it seems Milkless, the Malkavian, who occasionally refers to herself as Peach, wants to ask some questions, and I seem to remember that the last Q&A that they appeared, they asked questions aplenty, so some of them were serious, some of them were stupid, so I have to prepare myself now. Peach, Milkless, child of Malkav, what is your question?
Did you know that there is supposedly a loose theory running around that vampirism is actually a result of an alien intervention? A nonsense theory. Sure, but you can't deny the use of vicissitude that falls eerily in similar territory as John Carpenter's The Thing. What's your opinion on this theory, both mechanically and in abuse of law? Do you think it's more or less credible than the theory of Cain's origins? Why or why not?
Okay, that caught me by surprise. I was not expecting such a deep and insightful idea. Vampires are fiends from outer space. I mean, that would explain one conversation I had with a Zemitsi, who, a firm believer of the path of metamorphosis, who had this strange idea of wanting to send his clan to the moon. I mean, the whole atmosphere and pressure thing aside, it's interesting. Yes, that's very interesting indeed. I'm sorry, I cannot answer that for you right now. That is... I really need to think upon that. I will come back to you with that. I will find you and we will have a discussion on it. And now we have a question from... Sorry, Neonate, is that correct? That's not like a series of, like, ill typings or anything. Like, what do you call them? Typos. Richard the Rooster. Definitely Malkavian. Anyway, Richard, Dickie, what's your question?
Do you like hurting other people?
Well, if you mean physically, I cannot be bothered for it. Being there, done that, it is just too much effort and energy on my part. But when it comes to mentally and emotionally... I have no idea what you're talking about. No, not really. Saved Spawn has returned for another question. Ask away, but tread lightly.
Do you really speak Gaelic? Could you read us the Book of Nod?
I see you took note of the previous Q&A, where I said I had a Gaelic version of the Book of Nod. Alas, I do not read any Gaelic, for I cannot understand it. It's merely a collector's item. I could read the Book of Nod to you sometime. I am scheduled to read Revelations of the Dark Mother sometime, but I've just been so busy as of late, and I may or may not get around to doing it on, what was the agreed platform? Oh yes, Twitter, because I believe doing it on the YouTubes and the other podcast platforms would, breach some copyright, legalistics. I said that wrong. Legalistics, that will do. So, it shall be arranged somehow, I'm sure. And it appears that we are on a very last question now. Hallelujah. I mean, what a shame, what a shame. And just like before, the last question goes to Deanna Lee. So what would you like to ask? The floor is yours, as they say.
Dealing with Vampire the Masquerade, which court book did you find the easiest to learn and which did you find the hardest? Have you ever embraced someone, and have you ever fostered a neonate?
Some interesting questions. Now, alas, I do not own any specific books regarding the Camarilla, Anax, and Sabbat. However, I do own a book regarding the Tamahedra, and it's the V20 book, The Black Hand, A Guide to the Tamahedra. It's a very interesting book, but it is very dense, extraordinarily dense. It's not as energetic as the other one, so trying to learn stuff about them was a bit challenging. But putting that cult aside, the most difficult I find to understand is the Sabbat, purely because the ideologies and the thinking behind them is so different to the Camarilla, and, on contrast, the Sabbat are the most interesting to me to learn about. So that's that. But have I embraced someone, and have I ever fostered a neonate? Well, with regards to the shithead that I have to look after and teach the ways of our world, I did embrace somebody once, and they succumbed to a Bali ritual. It did not go as they intended, shall we say. The ritual I refer to is a ritual that the Bali can do to convert other Canaanites into, the Bali. It was horrific. So much bloodshed. Guts. Gores. I barely recognized her. The child. My only child. I think we should leave it at that for now, and to end on a more positive note, for we have now reached the end of the questions of the 1,500 YouTube subscriber special. With all the joking aside, I'm going to break out of character here. I am extraordinarily grateful for how supportive and amazing the vast majority of you have been. Just when I put in that little Discord channel and just seeing it light up with all those questions, seeing the people ask questions on Twitter and Instagram, seeing all the comments on the YouTubes and like the people that follow me telling me that, oh, a friend of mine showed me the podcast and now I'm into the World of Darkness. I'm showing it to all my players. We all love it. We all listen to it together as we're playing our games. Like, all this wonderful feedback and praise and support. It's like, we are pretty much one big old happy family, if you would. And I've never really felt part of any sort of community before, and I feel I've gained some fucking great friends through this, and as I said earlier, I actually have more intimate relationships with someone, and as I said before, you know who you are. I hope you're listening anyway. It's all just surreal. It's just amazing just how supportive and lovely you have all been, and I cannot wait to see what the future brings for the podcast. I have so many interesting episodes planned. There's a couple of really cool collaborations coming up that I can't wait to tell you more about, and yeah, it's just, I hope you continue to keep on enjoying the podcast, and we can just still enjoy the things that we love the most, which is the World of Darkness and Vampire the Masquerade. Until next time, farewell.